They don't fear each other. They never have. What drives the Springboks and All Blacks is something bigger, the weight of respect built over generations. This rivalry isn't about intimidation. It's about what happens in the mind before the ball is even kicked. That's what makes it the toughest test in international rugby. How the Springboks reached this point, we need to understand how respect became the battlefield and why neither side takes that lightly. The rivalry dates back to 1921 and survived apartheid, cancelled tours and decades of competition. Despite New Zealand leading head-to-head 31-10 in the 21st century, Rassie Erasmus' appointment in 2018 shifted the balance. Since then, the Springboks led 7-5 with one draw. No All Black fears a Springbok, and vice versa. A Springbok would never disrespect All Blacks. Every win is earned. That mindset that nothing is granted turns every encounter into a war of edges, margins, and silent obsession. And today, mutual respect means more pressure than ever. Respect doesn't soften competition, it sharpens it. Every Lions viewer knows both teams enter matches fully aware. One mistake means everything. That pressure builds over decades of meetings and narrow losses, but recently it compounded. The Springboks have now beaten the All Blacks in 4 tests in a row, including the 2023 World Cup final. Just unbearable pressure. The All Blacks may be focused, even proud, but they're pushed to deliver perfection. So, how did South Africa get to this point? It's more than just wins, it's the strategic evolution under Rassie. Rassie Erasmus assembled arguably the deepest Springbok squad in rugby history. Former All Black Justin Marshall described it as featuring hybrid players able to operate as forwards or backs like Cheslin Colby and Quagga Smith. Meanwhile, the All Blacks face selection chaos. Constant debate around positions like 10, 15, and number 8 highlights uncertainty at a time when stability is crucial. Depth builds structure, but execution shapes outcomes. Both sides have plans, but only one has consistently turned them into trophies. South Africa closed 2024 with a triumph in the Autumn Nations Series, defeating the likes of Scotland, Wales, and England, underlining how deeply their system works in pressure environments. Meanwhile, the All Blacks reached 500 test wins in mid-2025, solidifying their legacy, but haven't won at Eden Park against the Boks since 1937. New Zealand's 50-game unbeaten streak at Eden Park will be tested in September 2025 when the Springboks return. Springboks are the team to beat in key matches. Respect doesn't equate to surrender, it sharpens the stage for the next phase. Rassie's long-term plan extends to 2027, and now comes the era of Scott Robertson, the Kiwi coach looking to restore the All Blacks' edge. His comments show an acceptance of South Africa's tactics and a quiet determination to adapt and evolve. Meanwhile, Jacques Nienaber, the defensive architect behind the bomb squad, is being courted back to South Africa, possibly to work again with Erasmus or at the Bulls franchise. That could bring the coaching brains back into alignment for the next World Cup cycle. This is not just about players. It's about who controls evolution in coaching, innovation, and preparation. This rivalry isn't built on trash talk or theatrics. It's built on tenacity, meticulous planning, and acknowledgement of equal opposition, but they respect them enough to never stop sharpening. And that is what makes the Springboks All Blacks clash the richest rivalry in rugby, a rivalry that demands excellence every single time. And yes, South Africa currently holds the edge, but respect ensures the fight is far from over. This isn't just a coaching rivalry, it's something deeper, something the rugby world hasn't seen in years. Because every time South Africa and New Zealand collide now, there's a battle far beyond the scoreboard. And it's between two of the most intense, creative, and controversial minds the sport has ever seen. We're talking about Rassie Erasmus and Scott Robertson, two men who didn't just challenge the rugby establishment. They're becoming it. But the way they got here couldn't be more different. And the next phase of their rivalry, it might just shape the entire future of international rugby. But before we get there, you need to understand how we got here and why this is not just about winning matches. When Rassie Erasmus returned to South African rugby as Director of Rugby in 2018, the Springboks were in absolute freefall. Morale was shattered, the public had lost faith, and South Africa, one of the most storied rugby nations on the planet, had become easy to overlook. But Rassie wasn't interested in traditional rebuilds. He tore up the rule book. He brought in staff no one else would have considered. He picked players based on culture fit and system synergy, not on headlines. or form. And then, behind the scenes, he went to war with World Rugby itself. His video targeting referee NIC Berry, unprecedented. The subsequent suspension, almost a badge of honour to the Bok fans, because Rassie wasn't playing politics. He was taking hits for his team and making it clear that he'd do whatever it took to win. That mentality reshaped the Springboks into a unit no one could push around. And the result? A World Cup in 2019, another in 2023, and a playing style built on power, precision, and painful intensity. But just when South Africa had re-established dominance, a new figure rose from the shadows of Super Rugby and brought with him a different kind of energy. When Rassie Erasmus returned to South African Rugby as Director of Rugby in 2018, the Springboks were in absolute freefall. Morale was shattered, the public had lost faith, and Scott Robertson isn't just charismatic, he's completely unconventional. While most coaches give post-match interviews, razor breakdancers in the middle of the pitch, while others work through dry tactics, he inspires players with metaphor and emotion. And it's not just style it works. Under Razor, the Crusaders became a dynasty, 7 consecutive titles, a culture of excellence, a style of play that merged structure with flair, and a system that turned raw talent into elite cohesion. But for years, the All Blacks hierarchy held back. They couldn't see past the image. They feared Razor was too unpredictable, too public, too theatrical. They stuck within Foster, and that decision backfired. New Zealand's standards slipped, losses piled up, and the one man who had everything to offer was still locked outside. Until now, because in 2024, Razor finally took the reins. And now, the stage is set. The Springboks under Rassie, and now under Jacques Nienaber's replacement, Rassie 2.0, are still the most physically dominant side in World Rugby. Their game plan is brutal but clever. They pressure teams into submission, take points when they can, and dare opponents to keep up. But Razor's vision for the All Blacks isn't to counter that with more brawn. He's leaning into speed, skill, risk. He's reviving the legacy of New Zealand's most fluid eras, but with a modern twist. This clash of philosophies is more than aesthetic. It's strategic warfare. The All Blacks' new playbook will demand total mental sharpness, while the Springboks will test every inch of physical and emotional endurance. The difference now is that both sides know how much this rivalry matters. This isn't a World Cup warm-up. Every test, every series, every rugby championship battle will now be dissected globally as a glimpse into who really owns the future of the game. This rivalry isn't just played on the pitch. Rassie and Razor now represent two countries fighting for control in the political and commercial arenas of rugby. South Africa's return to dominance has shifted the sport's centre of gravity. They've challenged Northern Hemisphere assumptions. They've torn down World Rugby's clean image. And they've made the case for a more global, less Eurocentric future. New Zealand, under Razor, is doing something similar but from inside. The system, Razor is rebuilding trust in All Blacks rugby while also pushing for more innovation in how the game is marketed, structured, and taught. It's almost a culture war between tradition and disruption. And the craziest part, neither of them is really following the rules. They're rewriting them. The next time South Africa and New Zealand meet, it won't just be another test match. It'll be a statement of intent, because whether it's in the Rugby Championship, a November tour, or the next World Cup cycle, these two rugby titans are locked in a silent but fierce arms race for talent, for tactics, and for the soul of rugby itself. And it's not just about who wins on the day. It's about which system survives. The Springboks will bring relentless intensity, emotional firepower, and the resilience that's defined their last decade. The All Blacks, now under Razor's direction, will bring movement, creativity, and a hunger to prove that a new dynasty can begin. So don't think of this as just two coaches going head to head. Think of it as a power shift in real time, a redefinition of what greatness means in rugby, because if history tells us anything, this rivalry is only just getting started.